Welcome back to Informed Cannabis Consumers. I'm Olive.
And I'm Andy, and we are so glad you're joining us today for what I think is a super important topic.
Absolutely. Today we're diving deep into something a lot of people ask about, and frankly there's still a lot of confusion around: the real differences between CBD and THC.
Yeah, exactly. We want to really break it down for you, make it conversational, but also, really informative, so you leave here feeling a lot more clued in.
So, let's kick things off with THC, or tetrahydrocannabinol. This is probably what most people think of when they hear cannabis, right? It's the compound responsible for that psychoactive effect, that, high feeling that people experience.
Yeah, the one that everyone talks about.
Exactly. And its legal status is, well, it's pretty varied, actually. It's restricted or even illegal in some states, especially if it's above a certain percentage, usually 0.3%. So it's really important to know your local laws there. But beyond the recreational aspect, THC actually has some pretty significant medical uses.
For example, it's widely used for pain relief, which is a big one for a lot of people. It can also help with appetite stimulation, which is particularly beneficial for patients undergoing, say, chemotherapy, who might struggle with nausea. And speaking of nausea, it's pretty effective for nausea control in general. Oh, and also muscle spasticity, like for individuals with conditions such as MS. So yeah, it's got quite a range of application. Okay, so shifting to CBD, or cannabidiol, the core difference here is it's non-psychoactive. So, no high feeling with CBD. That's a common misconception we try to clear up.
Right. Big relief for some listeners, I bet.
Exactly. And its legal status is a bit clearer too. If it's hemp-derived, meaning under 0.3% THC, it's actually federally legal. As for its medical uses, it's quite broad. We're talking about reducing anxiety and depression, alleviating chronic pain.
And it's notable for helping with epilepsy and seizures, even FDA approved as Epidiolex for that. Plus, it has anti-inflammatory properties, so lots of therapeutic potential without the high.
So I think it's probably a good idea now to kind of do a quick side-by-side comparison for our listeners, just to really nail down those key differences,
Absolutely, Andy. Lay it on them.
Okay, so first up, psychoactive properties. It's pretty clear. THC, yes, it's gonna give you that high. CBD, absolutely not. No high there. That's like the big defining characteristic, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the one most people ask about first, right? And then legal status, which is a bit of a maze sometimes. For THC, it really does vary state by state. What's legal in California might not be in, say, Texas.
Exactly. But with CBD, as long as it's hemp-derived and, has that less than 0.3% THC content, it's federally legal. So that's a much clearer path for consumers, generally speaking.
For sure. And then the medical uses, we touched on them, but to quickly recap, THC, we're looking at things like nausea control, appetite stimulation, and pain relief.
Right. And for CBD, it's more about anxiety, depression, chronic pain alleviation, and of course those seizures and anti-inflammatory benefits we talked about earlier.
Yeah, so while both have therapeutic value, their primary applications kind of diverge, don't they? It's really about what you're looking for. Speaking of what you're looking for, there's another really practical question that comes up a lot. And that's drug tests. Like, how do these compounds factor into that?
Oh, for sure. It's a huge concern for many people, right? Especially with employment. So with THC, it's pretty straightforward, unfortunately. If you're consuming THC, it's very likely to trigger a drug test.
Yeah, definitely a big red flag there. And CBD, I know sometimes people think, oh, it's federally legal, so it's totally fine. But that's not always the case, is it?
Exactly. That's a common misconception. CBD, depending on its purity, might still show up, especially if it's not like a pure isolate or if there are trace amounts of THC, which can happen even in those federally legal hemp-derived products. So it's a might, depending on the test sensitivity and the product's purity. It's really important to know that.
That's such an important point, and it kind of leads us to something really interesting about these two compounds, and that's this idea of them working together. Have you heard about the entourage effect?
Oh, absolutely. It's like one of my favorite concepts to talk about because it's so fascinating. It really challenges the idea that, one compound is superior.
Right? So, for listeners who might not be familiar, the entourage effect basically suggests that CBD and THC, when used together, especially in what we call full spectrum products, they might actually enhance each other's therapeutic effects.
Yeah, it's like they're synergistic. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Instead of just getting the benefit of THC alone or CBD alone, when they're combined, they can potentially boost each other, leading to a more comprehensive or even a more effective therapeutic experience. It's pretty cool, actually. And speaking of cool, that actually brings us to some really, really important notes for our listeners. Just, general safety and like best practices, because as we always say on Informed Cannabis Consumers, being informed is key, right?
Absolutely. And I think the first thing that always needs to be hammered home, Andy, is where you're getting your products. You really, really need to make sure you're buying from licensed sources and, crucially, that the products are lab tested. Like, don't skimp on that.
Yeah, for sure. That's non-negotiable, honestly. You want to know what you're putting in your body. And tied to that, especially with THC, but really with any cannabis product, just start low. Start with low doses, like really you can always take more, but you can't take less, right?
Exactly. It's about finding that sweet spot for you personally. And finally, and this is probably the most critical piece of advice we can give, if you're on any medication or if you have any existing medical conditions, please, please, please consult your doctor before you start using either CBD or THC. It's just so vital for your health and safety.
Yeah, they can advise you on potential interactions or just, what's right for your specific situation. Don't skip that step.
Absolutely. And I mean, that really wraps up our deep dive into CBD and THC for today. Just, remember that key difference. THC is for that psychoactive high and is great for things like pain, appetite, nausea, but legality varies.
Yeah, and CBD, on the other hand, is non-psychoactive, so no high there, and it's federally legal when it's hemp-derived. It's really good for anxiety, chronic pain, and as we discussed, even some seizure disorders. So yeah, different uses, different effects.
Exactly, and it really just underscores, again, the importance of knowing what you're using, why you're using it, and where it's coming from. Like really, truly being an informed cannabis consumer.
Couldn't agree more, Olive. And thank you all so much for tuning in to another episode of Informed Cannabis Consumers. We really appreciate you spending your time with us.
Yes, thank you so much. Always remember to stay informed, stay safe, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye for now.